Hey guys, welcome to another episode of She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessinho. On today's post-match episode, of course, we're going to be reviewing the Manchester City loss. We lost 1-0. I mean, it's not a game that we're supposed to win, but I can't help but feel like we missed something there. There wasn't much of a performance. And my whole thing is like, if we're not going to play, a brand of football to try to actually win the game, let's rest the players that actually should be rested, like maybe Saka, Aubameyang, Tierney. I thought that there was some risk there from Arteta. This whole thing just kind of confused me. I wouldn't be surprised if him and Pep sometime at halftime, did a little handshake and said, you know what, 1-0, that's good enough. Neither team seemed fussed or, interested in pushing the envelope, and we certainly didn't. I kind of view this a little bit as, I don't know, just another lackluster performance against a team that I know they're the best team probably in Europe at this point, but there wasn't much of a performance there. I don't really think we went out to win. And again, if we had an eye towards the game against Benfica, rest the people that should have been rested. But we'll talk about all that. I have Tom here from the Gooner Talk, and Eoin and James are going to come in a little bit later. So let's go ahead and get started. Hey, Tom.
Hey, how are you? You good? Oh, sorry, I should start by saying "what up." That's the way we start these things with you. Is it
exactly.
not?
Exactly. That's going to be a thing now, where we just have to say "what up." If you don't say it, You can't be in here. Can't sit with us. But how are you?
Yeah, good. I mean, considering we came off a loss, not too bad, to be fair. Yeah, not too shabby. Yourself?
I'm good. It's a game that I didn't expect to win, but I am kind of confused about some things that kind of unfolded in that game. And if you're in the chat box right now, hello to you too. What up? Say hello in the chat box. Let us know you're here. We see you. I see Do Not Waste the Tweet is here. Good morning. Good morning to you. It's still morning for me. I know it's probably afternoon for you guys. Bulgarian Gooner, one of my favorites. Welcome. Thank you for always supporting me. I really appreciate it. Maxwell, what up? See, he gets it, Tom. He gets it. Yeah, we have some others. Gail, good morning. Thank you for being here. My mom. Sup, mom? Sup, mom? Yep, it's me and Tom today. Yo-yo, hello. So everybody in the chat, thank you for being here. We'll get to your questions a little bit later. We only have Tom for a short period of time, so let's get started. So for you, how did you feel when you saw the lineup? To me, I thought, wow, I'm a little bit shocked at this. If we're looking towards Thursday, which I feel like we should, there were still some people in the lineup that I was shocked to see, like Saka and Tierney. Were you put off by the lineup? Were you confused by it? Or was it something that you kind of expected going into this game?
It wasn't what I expected at all. In fact, I was quite surprised by some of the decisions he made, like bringing in Murray and Holding specifically for this game. Like, it makes sense in my mind. Like, they've done really well together. And of course, they were the pairing that when we beat Chelsea and we went on that run after Boxing Day, and they were really good together. So that wasn't surprising in the context that, they work together. But it was surprising that he did decide to move away from Luiz and Gabriel in this fixture. Pepe, I was glad to see start. I wasn't glad to see where he was playing, though, when I turned out he was playing on the right-hand side, which is really strange because Arteta kind of succeeded in playing him on the left. We found a position that works. We found an area where Pepe can be influential and unpredictable, and we moved him to the right, and he was, again, all the things that he was previously. He was ineffective. They knew how to defend against him. He didn't offer too much. He was always cutting inside, and that didn't change throughout the game, even when we could see it didn't work. And I was being told on Twitter that it was done because tactically Saka looks to kind of defend Tierney a little bit and offer more against João Cancelo on that side. But if you're going to do that, then put Martinelli on the right-hand side and give him that energy and pace and desire that you get from him. So there was some surprising additions and omissions, but ultimately not to say it doesn't really matter who we played in that team, but it was always going to be a really tough test no matter what happens, to be honest.
So just bringing up the whole Pepe thing, to me, I was like, okay, so just like you, Saka played really good on the right, Pepe has been playing a little bit better on the left. Not really sure why they were switched. And I know that there was some things on Twitter kind of going around that maybe he didn't want to put Pepe on the left-hand side because Aubameyang usually likes to fit into that space, so he put him on the right-hand side. But for me, we've always kind of seen that Bellerin and Pepe don't really mix. Like, they're like oil and water. They do not mix. Do you think that was an oversight from Arteta, or do you think, why don't Pepe and Bellerin work together? And if they don't work together, why do we keep persisting with it? I can't really understand why these two don't mix, but you being more tactically, I guess, you could probably explain it a little better than I can, why maybe these two don't mix.
I think there's an element of Pepe always wanting to kind of be the guy that cuts inside and play onto that left foot. And Bellerin himself is someone that also can play quite incisive despite being right-footed. And Drew, you can do one. So, he's got nothing nice to say, that guy. Absolutely nothing. You can invite him to your wedding and he's still an absolute moron to you. So no, much love, Drew. Where was I? Talking about Bellerin and Pepe. The reason why is obviously both players kind of like to swerve inside, obviously a lot more Pepe. I'm not sure if it comes down ultimately to them not working as a pair. I genuinely believe there's a lot of this that they are both quite poor at the moment. I mean, Pepe, especially on that side. On the left, he's been quite good, but we know how poor he's been there. Bellerin, I really struggle at the moment trying to find any kind of defence surrounding him. On paper, he's better than Cedric, but on form, Cedric is a much better option. But you could turn around and say that we want to use better players against Benfica on Thursday. So maybe that's why Bellerin played. But it's really kind of a hard argument to pair those two together. And I think it mostly comes down to more Bellerin than it does Pepe in this instance.
Yeah. I mean, Pepe had a Casper-like performance yesterday, and I don't know if that's more indicative of him and maybe being out of the team or just being not in the right position, but it just seemed kind of like an oversight from Arteta, and he didn't really set up the team to really thrive for me because those two have never really mixed. So I wanted to talk about the goal, and I know that, we can kind of, it's kind of obvious. We weren't switched on. Tierney didn't get tight enough to Mahrez. He crosses a nice ball into Sterling and Holding loses him. But the bigger question for me is, why is it that we continuously start out games so slow? What is the reasoning for that? And is that a coaching issue or is that the players? Because for me, I guess I'm just clutching at straws here, but maybe it's Arteta is focusing too much on the tactical side and he doesn't do enough to get the team ready to go. But these are also professionals that should be able to get themselves up for the game. So what is your thoughts on, our slow starts?
It's really obviously difficult because we've come off the back of 2 out of 3 games against Aston Villa and City, or 2 out of 4 if you include Benfica, but in the league, 2 out of 3 games where we've conceded very early. And obviously that comes together to kind of piece a puzzle, I suppose, of saying that Arsenal start games quite slow. But it depends on the opposition usually. Like the Chelsea game on Boxing Day, we came out of the blocks absolutely firing and we were really pressing Chelsea, and that obviously led to us having quite a lot of the dominance of the performance in that game. So I don't think it's like an ingrained issue, and I think it's something that does pop up here and there. I think why it does is Arteta's not going to be sitting there in the dressing room saying, right, guys, we're going to start really slow today. He's not exactly going to do that. He's going to be trying to tell them where we need to focus on, what the individual sort of tactics that are needed to play the game, what everyone's responsibilities are going to be, who they need to be marking and looking at, and what type of game they need to play, and how we're going to ultimately win the match. And sometimes there are just lapses of concentration. If you look at both the goals against Aston Villa, it was a lapse of concentration from Cedric that gave the ball away that obviously we then conceded from. And it was weird because obviously both of them are from crosses. The mistakes come at different points in both games. The mistake against Villa is obviously Cedric giving the ball away. The mistake against City is arguably Tierney not stopping the cross and then Holding not really battling to be in the right position to deal with the cross. It is a very good cross. You can't take anything away from that. Mahrez does exceptionally well to kind of loop the ball so it dips right onto Sterling's head. It's not like a more sort of horizontal cross whereby you can easily head it away. It dips right at the right moment. But there's still no excuse that Holding doesn't get up to try and challenge a 4'2" winger in Raheem Sterling for a headed challenge. So it's difficult to pinpoint why teams start slow or why we've started slow of late. I don't think it comes down to the manager. I think that it's something that's ingrained within some of the players that we are ultimately probably going to be looking to move on in the near future.
Good answer. Good answer. I was pretty much, wanting to pin this on Arteta somehow, but, maybe it's not Arteta's fault. I don't know what it is, but you're right. Sometimes we do start out fast. Sometimes we don't. But I just feel like when we give up those goals really early in the game, we don't really seem to be able to like rebound from it more times than not. And it just kind of shuts us out of games. When Aston Villa, the first time that we played them, they cut that game. That game was done after like 5 minutes, and we played them again. Same thing happened. So not quite sure what it is, but in this game in particular, once that goal went in, I mean, they really could have been 3 or 4-0 up in the first 5 minutes of that game. And then they just kind of sat off of us, kind of thing. Did you think, throughout the game did you feel like we had a chance to come back into it? Or was it more of like a good, decent buildup, but nothing really? Because I personally didn't feel like we were as in it as maybe some other people thought, but maybe you saw it differently.
I think it's an interesting kind of mental experiment, the game in itself, because what obviously happens quite often, and we talk about how football moves so quickly. At the end of the day, like we talk about what Arsenal need to be and where they need to get to, and that's going to take years and years and years. And the thing is, football happens so fast, and you've got a game every 3 days. But also within games, you've got the 90 minutes, which is split into kind of different sections. And although we lost this game, which immediately sent, despite it being the context of whatever game it was. But at the end of the first half, there was a 20-minute kind of period where Arsenal were gradually getting a foothold in the game. They were making chances. Tierney was dominating the left-hand side with Saka. We had a chance through Saka getting a shot, which Aubameyang unfortunately blocked and was offside in that moment as well. We were creating some little moments towards the end of the first half. And I was concerned that it was basically City managing games, which they've done exceptionally well this season, is they can take a 1-goal lead. They don't have to take the second goal because they know if they do concede, they can put the gear up to gear 5 or whatever and then smash the side in 5 minutes and take the lead again. And they manage these situations exceptionally well. And we kind of saw that at the start of the second half when City again came out and pressurised us from the first minute. So I thought that we were more in the game up until the end of the first half, but the second half was really kind of poor. It was dour. And when you look at the game as a whole, for the majority of it, we were completely out of it. The performance was quite bad. But I would say if we'd have kind of taken the chances we'd have made in those last 20 minutes of the first half, it could have been very different. But ultimately, that just didn't happen.
Yeah, I definitely viewed this more of like, I thought the ending result actually really flattered us. I really don't think we were in that game as much as people thought. I thought, up to this point, we have improved on our build-up play. For a long time, it was even the build-up was just, it was like dead, but now we seem to be able to build up play a little bit better. We know what we're doing. We have a lot of, decent patterns of play that get us into good positions, but we really didn't test Ederson that much. I don't really feel like Stones and Diaz really felt like they were under any sort of threat. And that worried me a little bit, because I just think regardless to if this is City or not, I still expect our team to be able to create decent chances with Saka, Aubameyang, and Pepe on the pitch, Odegaard on the pitch, Xhaka on the pitch. I just think there's something, with this team when we play teams that are a little bit above us. I know City is way above us, but even with teams like Aston Villa and Everton and Leicester, we just tend to be. It's really difficult for us to create chances, and unless they just give us the ball the entire time and just kind of sit in their own box, we can't get it over the line. And to me, that's something that the team and Arteta needs to work on over time, because if you can't create goal scoring opportunities like clear chances, we're never going to win games. And I think that that's the next evolution in this team moving forward, is creating real goal scoring opportunities more. It just seems like we're kind of there and abouts, but not really quite there, But with this game, there's not really a lot to talk about because nothing really happened on our end. But for you, looking at where we are in the table and Thursday's game, I know we talked about this on the You Are My Arsenal podcast yesterday. I talked with Drew and Luke, but are both competitions still in play, or do we need to focus on one or the other? Because that game against Man City didn't really show me from Arteta's perspective, like, are we focusing on the Europa League or not? Because if you're focusing on Europa League, why is Saka out there? Why is Aubameyang out there? So for you, are both competitions in play still, or we should focus on one more than the other?
I think that the lineup we saw against City did give some insight into the fact that Arteta knows the importance of Thursday. I think what he did was he basically picked a lineup which he thought would be enough to kind of, if City weren't either on it or if they were going to manage the game like they did where they were happy to get one goal, that we'd still be in it, that there was enough kind of quality on the pitch that Arsenal could nick something from the game. So I do think there was elements of the lineup which suggested there is a big focus on Thursday, which puts a lot of pressure on Arteta now, because if that doesn't go well, it's an incredible amount of pressure is on him for the rest of the season to get something from the league, which looks exceptionally unlikely at this stage. I think that you have to kind of focus on both until you're out of either of them. It would be the same thing kind of the FA Cup last season when we were seemingly out of the league, but still pushing through the FA Cup rounds. I thought we'd still had to push on both to try and see what we could get, because under Unai Emery, the last full season that he was there, we were towards the end of the Europa League, and he suddenly got very kind of distracted about the Europa League and rotated against the likes of Crystal Palace and Brighton, and we lost those matches, and that cost us Champions League qualification by a single point over Spurs. So it is important that you continue to focus on both, because at the end of the day, with things so congested, people like to throw up the league position and say it's not good enough. But actually, when the context of where Arsenal are in comparison to the other teams and then the top four, I mean, there's 6 points between us and Liverpool at this stage. There would have been 3 if we'd have managed to get a miraculous win yesterday. But that shows you how congested things are. And also the fact that these teams above us have all got to play each other at some stage. The more teams that are above you, the more times they're likely to play each other during the fixtures. So teams will drop points. It's not like they're all playing other teams and are guaranteed wins. So Arsenal just need to kind of focus on themselves in the league at this point in time, kind of find the best rhythm, pick up some sort of run. And the best way to do that is, yes, rotation, but it's minimal rotation of 1 or 2 players in each game. Keep as many fresh as you can. But the Europa League on Thursdays, it's a make or break for the season, because I can't see Champions League qualification through the league. It seems unreal that would happen at this stage, and even European qualification in general, let alone just the Champions League. So we have to kind of push very hard against Benfica on Thursday. I thought they were pretty. I don't know what you thought about Benfica on Thursday, but I thought they were very poor, and we basically just we didn't really take them to the sword, did we?
Mm-hmm. No, we didn't. I don't think we. I think I sensed a shakiness, a nervousness from this team. I don't know what that's coming from, but it didn't seem like we had that same confidence that we had against Leeds. We didn't have it against Benfica. I know they're 2 different teams, but we played the same exact team. And I think Arteta was trying to put his very best squad out there to try to kind of put us in a position where we could rest people maybe in the second leg, because we had put ourselves so far ahead that it doesn't really matter what they do. We didn't do that. We didn't take care of business. Then we go into the Manchester City game. He makes some changes. And I think maybe there's an overemphasis in rotating. Maybe, like you said, it's 1 or 2 players, maybe. But maybe for the rest of the season, he should kind of focus on just playing his best team as much as possible, so that we can gain some sort of consistency. Maybe that's what it is, because, I mean, we don't even know what our starting center back pairing is. Do you know what it is at this point? I don't really feel like I know what it is. So maybe we just need to, just be a little bit more consistent and not focus so much on rotating, and just give our best in both competitions, since we're kind of in both of them still a little bit, All right, let's read.
Go through the comments. Sorry, I know.
Let's read some of these comments a little bit. Let's try to see and make sure there's no abuse towards you. You have some friends in here that aren't very nice.
Are they? Oh.
Russ says, no, we weren't in the game. City didn't get out of second gear, and they didn't need to. I agree with that. Reckon he simply just doesn't like the Irish, Ian. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's talking about Owen there.
We lost that game before we came out in the tunnel. Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Yeah, for sure. I think Arsenal have always kind of been that side that have lacked the mentality in the tunnel, for sure.
Yeah, the Emirates era for sure. We haven't been the type of team that comes out and we don't look confident. Like a lot of times, like I feel like the first thing that I do is when they come out of the tunnel, I look and see what the body language looks like. And I know it's not right to read body language, but I do it. So whatever. And it just seems like sometimes we're ready to go and other times we're kind of like, And that's kind of what I got from the Benfica game. The first one was the energy was off. It wasn't the same energy from the Leeds game. And I'm not quite sure what that's about. Y'all are silly. I don't even know what you guys are talking about in these comments anymore. Let's see. The image of Stones botting Aubameyang summarized the game. We got bullied off the pitch. Oh, before you go, I need you to talk to me about Aubameyang. What do we do about this? You know, I mean, he going from the Leeds game to the last two performances that he had is just in such contrast. Like he was switched on from the very first moment against Leeds. He was good. He was pressing. He was positive. Good body language. Benfica game, he's off. He misses some big chances and then goes into the Manchester City game and just really gives absolutely nothing in that game. And I know that might be just kind of based on game state and maybe, you know, the people in behind him weren't giving him the ball in the positions that he wanted, but I still feel like he's not giving enough. And I'm finding him to be more problematic than I feel like he should be at this stage. Just give me your thoughts on Aubameyang at this point and what you think about him this season and what do we do with him at this point?
I don't think we've got much choice with what we do with him because obviously we've given him this new massive contract, which is now going to be here for another 2 more seasons, I think, after this. So we have to find a way to make it work because we've invested in it. And it's not like the Ozil situation because this is a striker that whilst his form has kind of dipped this season, I think that's been more about kind of Arsenal in general than specifically him. I think that he is a player that obviously needs a game to be working for him to really be going for it. Leeds was a perfect example. You've got a team that are very open, that we're going to create a lot of chances. Aubameyang's going to be up for that. But when you're going up against a Benfica side that are sitting back 2 banks of 4 and are really trying to frustrate, and then you've got a Man City side that are in complete total control and possession of the game. They're 2 games that, whilst are different, don't suit Aubameyang whatsoever. The Man City game in the FA Cup suited him more because we played him on the left-hand side in a 3-4-3 where we could play him in behind with Tierney playing balls over the top. But as a central striker against Man City, against any big 6 sides, really, that get more possession than we do, he finds himself very often kind of isolated. And that means that you're never going to get the best out of Aubameyang whatsoever unless you give him those chances. And when we do this season, he's missed quite a few big, high-profile chances. He's missed them in big games like against Liverpool and against Man City away from home this season as well. I just look at him now and think that the best thing for Aubameyang is that he needs 2 players on either side of him that are going to be really good at cutting the ball back into situations that he finds the most advantageous, which is why I found it so weird that we went for Pepe on the right, because for someone that likes to cut inside, he's never going to create the chances that Aubameyang is going to feed off. If we had Martinelli out there, you have someone who's right-footed on the right-hand side that's going to do a much better job. Or you can play Saka on the right-hand side because he can still, whilst being left-footed, cross very effectively, as he showed against Brighton with the cross for Lacazette's goal. So tactically, you need the right players around Aubameyang for him to work. Ødegaard can work behind him, so can Emile Smith-Rowe, but he needs the right situation, and Arsenal haven't really been that good this season at creating those situations for him. And then the few times that we have, he's not really taken those opportunities. But we've got to make it work. I published a piece today about kind of the strikers that Arsenal should go for, because I think we're going to need to go for strikers, because Lacazette's got a year left. I think we'll sell him, and Ketty's got a year left. He could move on, and Balogun's seemingly going as well. So a striker will probably be on the agenda for Arsenal very soon.
But see, that's my thing, though. So you're saying that these were not games for Aubameyang. You know, these were not games for Aubameyang. Are these games not games? Yeah, I mean, are these not games for Lacazette?
Yeah.
You know, so why not play Lacazette and let Aubameyang sit out for the Benfica game? I don't really. Some of the choices that Arteta made in this game in particular made no sense to me. You know he's not the type of player that if we're going to be without the ball for long periods of time and we're not going to be able to, you know, play him in behind or whatever, he's going to be playing in between two really good center backs, that this is not the system, not the lineup, not the game, not the time to have him in there. But you have somebody like Lacazette who, I mean, has been dropped effectively, you know, at this point and was playing perfectly fine and is more of the type of striker that you want to have when it's going to be more of like a battle, you know, and maybe you need somebody that can hold the ball up. You know, we had absolutely no out ball, none. When Leno was kicking the ball, there was nobody to get the ball to. So for me, it's like, yeah, what were you doing? Like, you know, sometimes he just confuses me, you know, and these are the type of things that I feel like, as much as I like Arteta, which I do, and I want him to succeed, I know he's a great coach. I know probably what he does on the training pitch is invaluable. We know he's a great coach, but the management aspect needs to get better because that didn't make any sense. If we weren't going to go full throttle against Man City, just rest Aubameyang. No point in putting him out there. No point in frustrating him. You know, I mean, he's off of 2 not so great games, you know, and now we're expecting him to perform against Benfica if he does play. You know, I mean, Saka ran his legs off yesterday. He didn't look necessarily super energetic. Now he has to come and probably play against Benfica. So I'm just, you know, I just think those are the things that Arteta needs to improve on he's going to be here, but in the future. But here's Owen. Here's your friend Owen.
Hey, Owen. I was waiting. You were trying to avoid me. I was thinking, did Tom just limit himself to a half hour because he knew I was coming on here?
I didn't limit myself. Jess limits me.
Look, we changed the schedule for Tom because we wanted to get him in here, you know, so we had to start a little bit earlier and have you guys overlap a little bit. But we're just talking a little bit about Arteta and the choices that he made. And for me, I just don't think I don't know if he made a decision. He just kind of threw, I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking in this game. I really, really don't. But, you know, if you're not going to play and you're going to put a rotated squad out there, really rotate. And if you're going to go for it, really go for it. We're just kind of in between, you know?
Yeah, it's sort of like I sort of sensed a bit of reluctance for him to really, because in my opinion, I would disagree with the take on, you know, take it one game at a time and try and win because I really just don't think that we have the depth within our quality within our squad to concentrate on 2 tournaments full tilt. And for me, it looked like he was a little reluctant to sort of pick one as of yet. I think in my mind, he put that strong team out against Benfica last week to try and kill that game off within one leg, and it just didn't work out. But yeah, it was an extremely confusing one. As you say, I think tactically, Aubameyang was the wrong choice. I think there was a lot of sort of tactical mistakes made by Arteta within this game. I like Tom as well. I heard he was talking about the Saka playing on the left to try and cancel out Cancelo, with both his defensive work rate and the creativity between him and Kieran Tierney going down that one side would hopefully occupy him, but it just didn't work. It didn't work. And going into the second half, something that I seen straight away was that we were sitting a lot deeper. And I think that was a tactical instruction. I think that Arteta was looking them to sort of try and suck City in and then giving us more chance to hit them on the break, which I think was the wrong decision when you have a team of the quality of City. We've seen how clinical they were within the opening first minutes. But I was going to ask a question maybe just before Tom goes even, and it was something Andrew and James were talking about this on the Arscast earlier, and it's something that I've been thinking about since the start of the season really. We do this thing from the start of the match, from the kickoff, where we kick the ball as far up into the sort of the left-hand touchline as far, much like you see in, you know, with the kickoff in rugby.
Yeah.
Can anybody explain to me what that is? Because I just don't get it. It's so wasteful and sets us up. It starts us off in the wrong foot from the get-go.
It's about territory. Is the simple answer why they do it. You either will win possession or like you'll either get the possession back or you won't. but it's effectively about territory, because you start the half with all of your team in your own half, whereas in a typical match they're all spread out and amongst one another. So if you kick it into the opposition, it gives everyone time to get into their different positions and intertwine between each other. I get that in your head it makes so much sense. Why don't you just pass it back, keep possession, pass it around? But you can get overloaded very quickly by a team coming at you with no outlets at the other end of the pitch, because they've been so condensed at the start. That's how I understand it from what I've been told about why it's. Because I've asked the same question, because I was like you, why the hell are we doing this? It makes no sense. So that's effectively the answer that I got. That it's about trying to gain territory and earn the positions that you need to gain at the start of the game.
It's not very effective, though, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. No, it's not on.
There's a lot of questions. It's just some things I don't get. I don't get that. I really don't understand what we do offensively on corners. I mean, I have no clue.
More defensively at the moment.
what's going on? So there's a lot of questions to be answered, and I don't want to go into doom and gloom, because we're still in the Europa League. I see that there's, comments about if we lose on Thursday, let's just wait. We could win. There's still a big chance that we'll win. I don't think Benfica, unless we beat ourselves, I don't see Benfica being able to beat us. I really, really don't. And I think just as a fan base, we're traumatized, by thinking that we're going to easily go through things and not be able to get it over the line. But if he plays our strongest lineup, I think we should be able to get it done, but this game, maybe I was unrealistic to think that we would put in some sort of performance. For me, I'm still waiting on us to, if you really look at all the games that we've won this season in the league, we really haven't beaten any teams that are above us or teams that are in form. They're usually teams that have been below us or just in the very beginning of a bad slope or whatever. And our next couple of games are like Spurs, Everton, Leicester. I know we have Burnley in there and West Ham. So I'm looking forward to those games to see if we still think that the league is in play, which on Thursday we'll know, whether or not we're going to put more effort into that or just kind of play both. But we'll know where we are. I think I'll know more about Arteta in those games, because I don't want to see any more of these timid performances just because the team, we're, I don't know, have an inferiority complex. I don't know what it is.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Jess, with the word timid, and I think that's that was the frustrating thing watching. I don't think anybody really expected us to go out and either beat City or dominate them in any way. But when you're playing a team like City, where there's an obvious gulf in quality between the two sides, there's certain things, bog standard things that you can do in a football match to sort of narrow those discrepancies. And it's stuff like be physical, be high on the press, don't give them any space, don't show them any respect. And there was none of that. It wasn't a very combative performance, which look, we normally do that with those sort of big six sides, if you will, under Mikel Arteta. It's something that we've done very well. And we just completely lacked that. And whether that was down to a naivety from Mikel Arteta, thinking he could field so many of the same players, with heavy legs, that they weren't able to carry out that game plan, or whether it was just the players weren't up for it, that's up for debate, but no, the result itself, as I say, it wasn't too much of a disappointment, I don't think, but it was more the display I was seeing from the players.
Yeah, for sure. I think, that's just what it is. And I'm not going to kill Arteta too much, because I know it's City and you have the excuse that they're the best team and all that kind of stuff, but against Leicester, Spurs, West Ham, and whoever else, Everton, when we play them, I need to see a performance. I need to see something. I am so tired of seeing us just kind of fold up, give up a goal early, not be able to, come back, play straight into their hands against Jose Mourinho and Brendan Rodgers. It felt like tactically Arteta, the first time that we played them, just kind of he fell straight into the trap. So I'm looking to see some sort of, I know he's learning on the job, but we do have to see some sort of improvement from him tactically in game at some point, and I think we should feel okay with saying that we want to see it, the next game that you play that team. We should not be falling straight into the Jose Mourinho trap this time, or Brendan Rodgers just sitting off of us and letting us implode, and then Jamie Vardy coming in and scoring a goal in the last 20 minutes. So Tom, I know you have to go. So just let everybody know where they can find you. And I know you have a show later, so just plug that really quick.
Yeah, you can find us at the Gooner TalkTv on Twitter. I'm doing a show with the annoyingly Drew's on a little bit later on, so you can listen to him. We've got Adam and we've got French as well coming on, so it'll be good. 8:30 p.m. UK time. So check us out. But thank you, Jess. It's been a real pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Okay, you remember next time when you come, what are you going to say first when you get on
What
here?
up? What up?
Exactly.
And now am I leaving? If I'm leaving, do I have to say what down? Is that how it works?
No. All right. We'll see you next time.
Good night, guys. Have a good one.
All right. See ya. All right. We're going to bring James in. What up, James?
Hello.
He did it. He knew. So that's the thing now, you guys. If you come on the channel, you have to say what up as soon as you get in. I don't care if it's an 80s thing. I can't
do that, man. Not with a dodgy Irish accent. It just doesn't have the same ring to it.
Oh, man. So we're just kind of talking. I mean, the game was dead. So there's not much to talk about in game, but I did want to bring up just Saka's performance a little bit because I think even though it wasn't his best game, he still showed a little bit of quality. I think he's probably the only player in our squad that we could say confidently could probably make it into the City squad. He's leaps and bounds better than a lot of our players. I mean, it's insane. He's 19 years old. But James, just to get you, in the conversation, what do you think about Saka's performance? And do you think that he should have been rested for the Benfica game? Did he look tired to you? What are your thoughts on Saka?
I would have rested him, but you ask, for who? Personally, I'd have put Pepe maybe on the right hand side still and kept Martinelli out there on the left. So I probably wouldn't have started him. However, he was arguably the best player on the pitch for us yesterday, along with Kieran Tierney. So it's one of them, isn't it? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. But at the same time, yeah, Arsenal Football Club, we're being carried by a 19-year-old kid, which is amazing because he's a fantastic player. But at the same time, it just goes to show that the reality is that you've got highly caliber international players that are earning, some of them nearly 3 times as much as this kid is earning. And yet they're not performing to the level and a 19-year-old kid is. And I don't know if that's because you've eliminated hunger from these guys with the fact that they've got their money now. So what is there for them? The fact that they can't see anything, potentially, there is no light at the end of the tunnel, potentially trophy-wise, because the best in the league we're going to finish now is probably 4, if you're confident 4th, but you're not going to get any more than that. And what do you really get from finishing 4th apart from Champions League? You don't get anything nice at the end of it. So they're looking at it thinking, well, why overexert myself? And a lot of them potentially might not be here as well. He's tied down for a longer time. I don't think he's one of the ones that will sell. I know there's a few that are in contract that are probably going to get sold as well. So he's looking at it going, well, I'm passionate. He's been here since he was 8 or 9 as well. So he's got that. So he holds that a bit more truer than some of the other players. But yeah, you just don't know really what the others, you're looking at him, like I said, and he's carrying the weight on his shoulders, because it's like at the moment, if he doesn't perform, who else is going to? You've got too many that are blowing hot or, cold. They're not even blowing hot and cold. They're just blowing cold.
Oh, and you want to come in on Saka's performance a little bit?
Yeah, well, in regards to the game itself, I think he was he was slightly stuck, as many were, because I think at times when we did sort of break the line and get into City's half, we were often just caught in positions of isolation. It was only one with maybe even sometimes none, but most of the time only one other player in support at all. There's only so much a player can do on their own, let alone against the sort of caliber of defenders that he was playing against Man City. In terms of if we're overplaying him, I think it's very easy to look at a player and say that he's not getting enough game time or he's getting too much, but it's really down to the discretion of the player. You know, if the player feels physically fit, if he feels mentally sharp, and the manager's happy to put him out there, you know, I don't think there's really anybody can question that decision. In terms of the long term, I would agree with James in terms that even if we finish outside of the European places this season, which I do think that we will, I think that a player like Bukayo Saka will give you a season or maybe 2 seasons, you know, a show of faith to stay at the squad. He can go to Man City and he's just another fancy winger at Man City. He could go away to Bayern Munich and he's the same situation. Whereas, you know, that old saying of he's one of our own. You know, he's an academy graduate that's sort of held a very high esteem around Arsenal. So the possibility of becoming a club legend is surely in the back of his mind as well when making those decisions. But look, eventually at the end of the day, it all boils down to trophies for a lot of players, and he'll only hang around so long. I think somebody maybe like a Gabriel Martinelli is somebody that we could, which I will be reluctant to do because I think that he's fantastic, but he's probably much more the likely type of player that we'll see the club cash in on to try and inject and sort of distribute into other positions around the squad.
Yeah, I mean, if you're telling me that, like, okay, so Saka gives 110% because he still has things to play for. And we've just gotten rid of Mustafi, Socrates, Ozil, and who else? Was it just them? Who else? Mustafi
Kolasinac.
And Kolasinac. Like all these players that were, you know, dead, you know, we're just kind of sitting on the bench collecting paychecks. But now we still have more of those. That's a lot. Like that's a lot of players that we can't count on. You know, we're potentially talking about, you know, having to really offload more players in order to get the type of performances that we need. Because quite frankly, I feel like for Arsenal Football Club, it shouldn't just be Saka that we're relying on. You know, we have so many players that just don't show up, you know, and there's just no excuse. I don't care if we're playing Manchester City. I really, really don't. When I see Everton, I watched Everton play Manchester City just a couple of days before we played them. And yes, they got battered 3-1, but they were in that game, like in it, in a way that we weren't in it. We were never in that game. I don't care what anybody says. We weren't in it. And I'd rather see that, you know, a 3-1, but feeling like for 60 minutes we were in it than not showing up at all. And I'm looking at players like Aubameyang and Pepe and, you know, whatever other dead players were out there and didn't even show up. What is that about? And if we have to get rid of all of those types of players and get more Martinellis and more Sakas out there, we're in for a long, 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 long rebuild. Because if we can count on them to just show up, I mean, I know it's Man City, but don't you have pride? Don't you have something?
Yeah, I think with the mentality thing, it's something that has been a problem at Arsenal for a long time, and that was never more evident in the fact that when we were making the signing of Nicola Pepe, that we never even met with him in person. I think, you know, like normally you do like character scouting, mentality scouting. You want to know who the person is, who the player is as a person, not just what he can do on the football pitch. And I think that just highlights the exact type of people that we have taken into the club. And look, it doesn't matter how many talented people, if there's weak mentality within all of them, you know, when the pressure comes, a lot of them tend to buckle. And I think that we've seen that yesterday, and we still have a lot of that. In terms of what you were saying about the sort of offloading that we did in January, which was absolutely fantastic, I thought. But when you look at it now, and look, I absolutely love Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, but handing a contract that size to a player of his age was probably a mistake. Handing out such a lucrative contract to a player like Willian was probably a mistake too. And I just fear now is that have we just undone all the good work that we've done, and now we're back into possibly the exact same situation all over again, where we have players that are probably surplus to requirement in terms of where this process is going, and they're just going to be stuck on the bench again. But look, it doesn't have to be. I think, to be honest with you, and I know probably Drew will kill me for saying this here, but I don't see any other way out of this mess at the minute than spending. It's going to take a lot of money to get us out of this mess, because we had a massively bloated squad. those numbers are being trimmed dramatically, and I would expect them to be trimmed even more come this summer. Players aren't cheap now, inflated prices. When I say it's going to take a lot of spending, I don't mean going out and buying £200 million players. I mean, 20 to 40 million players, but we need a lot of them, because if you don't think that the striking position is an issue, it absolutely is. Eddie Nketiah isn't up to standard and will likely be moved on. Lacazette's in the final year of his contract, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is an aging player. Gabriel Martinelli, whether the club push him out the door or he wants to go, I don't expect him to be here for much more than 2 seasons. So you're looking possibly at a striker, a right-sided centre-back, a right-back, another defensive midfielder, probably a number 10 in the summer as well. And I know people even going back to the game talking about Rob Holding, and James, even I know I'm stealing all the thunder here and you can maybe jumping in this one, but Rob Holding is somebody that I've praised massively throughout this whole season. I thought he's really stepped up to the mark when we were struggling, but that's 2 goals, simple defend. Say what you want about Kieran Tierney, but if you actually look at the goal, Kieran Tierney was sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because when the ball was switched over to Mahrez, Kieran Tierney was moving over with the compact back 4, which probably was a tactical instruction. But Rob Holding, again, lets his man go, which is pretty unforgivable. I don't know. Do you think that right-sided centre-back is a must in the summer?
Me?
Go ahead,
Yeah.
James. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, we definitely need an upgrade. I'd have him as one of the 4, but to rely on him every week, no. And I mean, the rumours are, about David Luiz getting another year, but they're saying that's more so from a character type of view. Like, he probably won't play a lot of games, but he's in there for what he does off the pitch, and for what he does with the young players and everything else, because they do all look up to him, regardless of what you want to say about the guy. They at least look up to David Luiz and appreciate that he's there and everything else. But no, you talk about that goal. I think you got to blame 3 of them there. I think Tierney you need to blame, because if you are going to stand off like that and not engage, then that cross is always going to come in. For me, you have to stop that at source. I'm not saying to completely clatter Mahrez and destroy him, but if you're just going to keep coming back and back and back and invite that on, when are you going to get in there and stop that? And then Holding, he's gets the blame, and for me that's 3 errors that I've seen recently. Wolves, I think he didn't help David Luiz when Luiz was too high up and gave away the penalty. I think he didn't react well when Cedric gave the ball away against Aston Villa, and now he's got this one. But then
An own goal as well.
Yeah, and Bellerin as well, you got to blame, because he should be shouting, telling Rob Holding where he is. I think he was terrible. So. And again, it's 67% of our goals this season are conceded in the first half. We're struggling to break teams down when it's 0-0, but we're giving teams easy leads. We're playing catch-up all the time. And we've seen we can't play catch-up. I think it's since he's been in charge, Mikel Arteta, that it's only twice in the Premier League that he's been behind and got either a point or 1. I think it's only twice that he's done it. So it's clear that we need to start these early and blow these teams out of the water, because we can't do what we're trying to do at the moment. It's not, I think, and that's why he played the same team that played against Leeds against Benfica, because he's got 5 subs in that competition, and he thought maybe the same. I'm going to blow these out of the water early, and then I can take them off and save them for Man City. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen, sadly.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of instances like this season where we're talking about how he was just unlucky, or things didn't go his way, or we're talking about that a lot, and we're talking a lot about individual errors as well. And I struggle to just blame the players fully, because, I mean, it happens so often. It has to be something that is going, I don't know. Like, I hate to be like, I know it's like, okay, you want to talk about the players, and, once they cross the white line, it's up to them. But to a certain extent, I feel like Arteta is culpable for some of the things that have happened this season. And, we're constantly giving him like a break. It's the players, it's the this, it's the that. But we start out slow, we give up goals. Tactically, he gets beat quite often by we can see it a mile away what's about to happen. I don't know why you can't see it, and it's just, he needs to get better at the management side of what's happening. I know he does everything he can on the training pitch, but when we're at the game, like in the middle of a game, he needs to be able to work these things out, and he's not doing it. And this team is failing in things that I just don't see other teams doing. You know, Rob Holding is our starting right-sided center back, but he's making mistakes, like big mistakes that pretty much put us out of the game once every, 3-4 games? That's unacceptable. To me, that's unacceptable. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's paralysis by analysis. So they're at times, especially when with no fans there, and you can hear how much Arteta is coaching. Sometimes you need to give him a little tiny bit of freedom, but he wants so much control over them that I just think they find it overbearing. You know, yes, there was a point yesterday where he was shouting at Aubameyang about the lack of the press, and Aubameyang turned around and put his hands in the air and just went quiet. Just let me do my thing. And I think that they've had managers before, especially Arsene Wenger, that went to them, because a lot of these players are still the same, that just went to them, look, go and play your game. Just do what you need to do. But this guy, and there's nothing wrong with it, because I think some of them do need to be coached because they're clearly not good enough. But he's just sometimes just too overbearing, and he operates as well on caution. Look at his substitutions; they're always cautious. They're never with an intent to win a game or to completely change a game. They're normally to err on the side of caution. And I think, he just needs to loosen it down. He just needs to loosen it up a bit. Just let them, I don't know, express themselves a bit more. They're not completely inept. Like, I'm not writing them off totally completely. But
he doesn't trust them. That's clear.
Yeah,
he definitely doesn't trust them. And if there's no trust on both ends, then it doesn't work. For me, I'm looking at them and I'm like, is it a matter of you're putting so much tactical things on them right before the game that sometimes you just need to put your arm around them and say, well, hey, we're going to kick ass today. I want you to just do this, just do it. It's like Bellerin looked like analysis paralysis yesterday, because I think he was thinking so hard about not getting beat by Sterling that he beat himself. Bellerin's not great to me, but that was a very below average performance by Hector Bellerin. That wasn't so much about it wasn't so much about, okay, he had a bad final ball. I mean, he was just by himself kicking the ball out. To me, that just is a sense of like, maybe they're overthinking it. He was the exact same way against Grealish the first time that we played Aston Villa. I would bet that Arteta was sitting there with him with his little notes like, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to try to beat you this way. And when you do that to players right before the game, they lose that energy, that fighting spirit, and they're thinking too much. But that's what I feel like is happening.
There's no guile throughout the squad. Like, this is something, and I completely agree with James. I think that Mikel Arteta is a micromanager. I think if you put Mikel Arteta in charge of a group of players like the one that City have, for example, I think he will be world class. I think tactically he knows a lot about the game. I think his ideas are brilliant, but I think it's the man management and the basic side of management. And not only that, the biggest thing that he spoke about when he first came into the club was breeding this culture. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a stupid Sunday league player, but something in culture that you see within football culture is that when somebody puts a hard tackle in on your player, you put one twice as hard in back when he gets the ball the next time. And yesterday, Bukayo Saka was kicked around the park. Aubameyang was shouldered off the ball by JOHNSTONE. Simple retaliation things that you can do, and even those little moments spark the rest of the players into gear, And we talk about Kieran Tierney yesterday. Yes, I agree fully. I think he was as much at fault for the goal as Rob Holding. I absolutely love Kieran Tierney, but something that you seen from Kieran Tierney immediately was that he tried to rectify that mistake by solely carrying the team towards goals. And there was one stage, I think it was just before half time, he was standing with his hands on his hips, blowing because he was so exhausted, because he was having to do a defensive job and trying to solely create for the team. And that's what I mean by a soft culture. Goals going into the back of the net and nobody being questioned or scrutinised as to why that has happened. It's just, oh, sorry boys, come on, we'll just get back to playing here. And that's just it's a bad working environment. Criticism is good if it's done in the right way, and there needs to be more on-field management from our squad. And unfortunately, when we talk about somebody like Aubameyang, I really think that captain's armband is an absolute hindrance to him. But unfortunately, now we're in a situation where it will probably do more damage to take it off him. and to me, unfortunately, I think that the weight of that armband could possibly be what puts his Arsenal career on a sort of downward spiral. I just don't think it's helping him at all. So I don't know, sticky situation for Mikel Arteta, but that's why he's paid the big bucks to try and figure it out.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Looking at, Aubameyang to me is just not captain material, and it's clear to me that Kieran Tierney should be the captain of this team. To me, I don't care how young he is. I don't care how little time he's been here. There's people that have touched that captain's armband that should never have touched it before. So I don't see what the point, what the destruction would be giving it to somebody who probably actually wants it and could wear it. But like you said, that just speaks to the type of mentality that Aubameyang has. If he's stripped of the captain's armband, he'll crumble. That's just for the betterment of the team. You should probably just be focusing on scoring goals. You don't need to focus on trying to be, the pillar on this team, the motivator, because you can't even motivate yourself half the time. I'm not trying to. My whole thing is this. We are in a long-term rebuild, not just in terms of getting the players that we need into the positions that we need them to be in, but the culture shift. That's a big part that Eoin brought up, is the culture of this team is just, it's not good. And it's deeply ingrained. I don't think it's just Arteta. I don't think it just started with Arteta. Obviously it's been here since Wenger, but it's deeply ingrained in what's going on in this team. Even Hector Bellerin, he's a vice captain, but he has one of the weakest mentalities I've ever seen. Just because you've been here for a long time and you love the club doesn't necessarily mean that you're a leader. I think we have a lot of things backwards, and hopefully we can get it together, because I think a lot of fans are going to be disappointed about how long this is actually going to take, because it's more than just acquiring players, which is going to be hard enough for us as it is, because we don't have money. But
yesterday it just showed us. Yeah. That was the really aggravating thing for me, was that you think you're progressing, you think you're doing well, and then you come up against a sort of regal football side like Man City, and it just shows how far off the mark we are. We are. If you think this is, like you said, Jess, I even said it, we need to spend money, but that isn't the instant fix. If you think that we are going to be competing for a title within the next 2 to 3 seasons, I don't know what to tell you. This is a 5-year minimum, I would say, before we are back to competing for any sort of sizable trophy.
Yeah. Yep. So you guys, we're at 56 minutes, and I want to start getting your questions in. So go ahead and get your questions ready for James and Eoin. Make sure you make it obvious that it's a question so I don't miss it. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and get into the question section soon. But yeah, I just, it's deep. A lot of our conversations as Arsenal fans are not really about micro issues and analyzing games, because quite frankly, we don't really get to analyze very many games. Usually we're taken completely out of it to the point where there's nothing to analyze. But a lot of our conversations really go back to the macro issue of, what is this rebuild looking like? How long is it going to take? Is Arteta the right man? And for me, Arteta, I know people are asking me well, if we lose against Benfica and we're out of the Europa League, am I going to be Arteta out? And I don't know how I'm going to feel. I would have kind of think about it when it happens, or if it happens, because I really don't want to think about what the fan base is going to be like if we're out of the Europa League. But for me, it's just, I think everything for me is inconclusive. I've seen strides in the way that we defend in certain instances, in terms of our structure and all that kind of stuff, but we're still making individual errors that are costing us goals. I see that our buildup is better, but we're not creating chances. So although I see improvement, it's not enough for me to say okay, well, we're making real strides to, move up the table. Yeah. The table doesn't lie. We're definitely mid-table, and we have been for both seasons that Arteta has been here. So I don't really know. Eoin, do you think what can you say about the project so far and our perceived, getting better? Do you see it in that we're making strides, or is it more of just inconclusive, like the way I think?
I'm very along the same lines as you, but to be honest with you, I'll be perfectly honest on 2 different things here. Just before the Chelsea game over the festive period, I would have parted ways with him. But that time has passed now. That was the window. That window's gone. For me now, you have to give him at least until 10 to 15 fixtures in the next season. The club have committed. They've stood by him, and they would look stupid to part ways with him any time before that, in my opinion, unless something absolutely catastrophic happens. But here's something I always say, okay, and I hope this doesn't come across as patronising or rude towards anybody or on any platform, because it even sounds sort of, oxymoronic me saying it on this here. The club need to care less what fans think. Our opinion doesn't matter. These people are in these jobs for a reason, and we are not in those jobs for a reason. We think we know a lot about football, but I can guarantee that if anybody sat in a room with Mikel Arteta, they would look like a donkey in comparison to him. And the truth is, if you go back to pre-social media days, pre-podcast days, pre-sort of fan interaction days, fans didn't have a lot of say. It was only on match day through booing or something like that their feelings would be known. But I can tell you, if it was up to the fans, we wouldn't have had Arsene Wenger here at all. We probably wouldn't have signed Dennis Bergkamp. We probably wouldn't have signed Thierry Henry. It would have been, he's a Italian league reject if Bergkamp was coming into the club. What fans think sometimes isn't what we need. What we think we need isn't exactly what we need. And it just goes to show you, look at Chelsea. Chelsea fans at the start of the season thought they were going to win the league. They signing Timo Werner, Kyle Havertz, Ziyech, Pulisic, that's a fantastic team, but sometimes the balance just isn't right, and you need to leave that to the experts. So for me, in terms of the project, I'm not overly convinced. I think there has been improvements, but really, you couldn't really regress any further in the time that Mikel Arteta has taken over. I've seen small signs of late. Every time you think that you're going to write him off, he shows us something to be excited about. So for me, as I say, in my mind, it's Christmas. The Christmas period next year that's when I sort of start to draw the line and make a conclusive decision.
Yeah. James, how do you feel about the project so far?
Yeah, it's obviously sadly we live in an instantaneous society. So I've mentioned it many times on my own channel and other podcasts I've been on. If I want to watch a film, I can chuck it. It's there. It loads up straight away. I'm watching it. If I want to listen to a song, I chuck it. And a lot of people have that ingrained in their head. The minute they want something, they can get it. And they're not prepared to wait. And I am one of those people to an extent. I am quite impatient because I feel that it's been 17 years, not just the Mikel Arteta era. However, I think, Owen, you summed it up perfectly. To compete now, you have to spend, and we just don't do it. And I think one of the worst things that we've done is recruitment-wise is that we're always looking at the short term. It's always quick fixes. I don't think they've looked at it properly and decided, oh, that's a good idea. That's good. It's just oh, this guy's available from such and such. Let's just grab him because he'll do. I think in the summer he was looking for a wide forward. He got told you can't have the big money for your wide forward. You can't have your big money for your midfielder. And also, he did want Aouar, but Edu and them said, no, we're going to get your Partey because I think you need a defensive midfielder more than a creative one. So, and he accepted that, which is fine. And look what happened, Partey, he's heads and shoulders above everything that we've got in there. Even when he's injured, he's still, on a half day, he's still better than what some of them in the middle are on their good day. So got no problems with that. But they went for Willian because they were like, well, look at the numbers from last season. And I defy anybody to say when you looked at it when we signed him, you didn't think, oh, that's a good idea. But it's been proven wrong now, and and sadly we're stuck with that, and we've got to ride that out. So it's the main thing for me is always recruitment. And when Arsene Wenger first come in, he had the jump on Clairefontaine, the French academy. He knew all them players before. Okay, Gerard Houllier eventually come along later on, and he had a go, but he didn't get them to the same extent. He had that jump. For me, Edu, I think, was national selector for 2 seasons with Brazil. And that was at all levels. That wasn't just senior level. That was for academy level and everything else. So I'm like, he's got the jump on the players in that academy. Martinelli come from the 4th division of Brazil. So if there's more players like that that we can find and we can mold and go longer term, that's what we need to do, because these short-term fixes of grabbing these players from other clubs, I mean, we sell our best players and improve them, and we seem to take the ones that regress under us. So the main thing is as much as Arteta has done badly, if we do change it and get someone in, we'll probably get a boost for a little while. But then after that, it's the same problems, because they're not going to get given the money. The main thing that has to change, sadly, is the amount of money that's being spent by the owners, and also the recruitment needs to be so much better. I mean, regardless of what happens Thursday, he's going to stay. They're not going to sack him. And he'll be given the summer. And in this summer, I don't want no excuses in terms of, how late it takes us to do things. I don't want to see us penny pinching. I want us to just go and get the players that he feels he needs. Because that's the thing, everything that went wrong with Unai Emery was the players. It's the players. Most of them players are still here. Why was it the players under Emery, but it's not the players under Mikel Arteta?
Yeah, it switches based on the narrative, really, because they didn't like Unai Emery, so they blamed him. I don't know. It's just the narrative, and I agree with everything that you guys are saying. I just think the long-term rebuild is okay as long as we're taking the right steps in order to make that rebuild successful. And for me, I question whether we have the right people in charge to make it happen, or we're going to be waiting 5, 10, 15 years. And we saw that with just a couple of results at the beginning of the season, we were down there in like 15th place. I know that we got a little boost, but the teams, even like teams like Brighton and Leeds, teams that we don't think about, Wolves, they will continue to improve their squads. If we don't continue to improve ours, we're going to be in mid-table. I talked to a Newcastle fan just yesterday, and they never thought that they would go down. And I'm not saying like to be alarmist and saying that we're going to go down. But don't think that because we're Arsenal, we have a divine right to be in this league, in the top 4, in Europa League. You're seeing it this season. We're not gonna qualify for Europa League. I don't think so. If we do, I'd be shocked. So if now we thought after 1 year being out of the Champions League, we'd be right back in, it's been 5 years. Now we were in the Europa League. If we're out this season, how long do you think it's going to take us to get back? Are we going to be in this Europa Conference or whatever the heck it is? We got to keep it real.
The problem is, and I've heard quite a few people saying that the long-term sort of target of the project is to become a sustainable Champions League team. And for me, that just doesn't cut it. I don't like that. And I know some people in the chat are saying stuff like, oh, we'll wait another 17 years for the league then, or blah. And I know it's so frustrating, but I would rather wait 5 years to be getting towards those competitions for a sustained period of time, for the next decade, that we be competing at that level. Because for me, to sit and say that you will be happy for the outcome of this project that we're going through at the minute is to become a consistent Champions League team. Well, we just left that. That's what we gave up with Arsene Wenger. We were that for years, and that's what we were livid with. The reason we took the risk and moved on from such a stable figure was to progress towards winning those titles again. So to go full circle and come back around just seems absolutely pointless for me. And although your expectations have to be realistic and within a sort of a realistic time frame, you're not stupid for saying that you want to win league titles again. And don't let anybody say that you are, because that's what this club is. We are, one of the best teams, the third most decorated team in this country. So for me, the long-term target is to get back towards winning those league titles on a sort of consistent basis of maybe one every 3 years or so. That's the long-term aim for me. And whether it be Mikel Arteta or somebody else in the driver's seat, I don't care, because my allegiances don't lie to any particular manager. It lies to Arsenal Football Club.
Yeah, I mean, what you're basically telling me is that we want to go back to being able to be sustainable in the Champions League, so we're getting that certain amount of money so that they no longer have to spend out of their own pocket to do anything. That's alarming to me, because that means you're not trying to win. But let's get to some of these questions. I think this is a good one by Alcart. Thank you for your question. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. So this is a question for both of you guys. How many players would you say are good enough in our squad to get us to the top 4? This is going to be a really short list. I can tell you that right now. Go ahead, James. You can go first.
Well, if you're looking at it, none of them, because they've never done it. You know, if that's hard, maybe I'm harsh saying that, but they've not done it. So none of them have shown me anything to prove that they're good enough to be able to do it.
I can be more positive if you like. Bird Lano is definitely that caliber of keeper. I think Matt Ryan is a good number 2 if we can get him to stay. But I'll rattle through the rest. No right backs. Centre back Gabriel, Kieran Tierney at left back definitely. Thomas Partey in central midfield and Bukayo Saka on the wing. Aubameyang, if he can regain his form, obviously is up there too, and Gabriel Martinelli, I think, in the long term too. But apart from that, nobody. And even with the likes of Gabriel Martinelli, in terms of here and now, I would say no. That's just potential. Oh, muted.
Yeah. I think I would say like pretty much the same thing that you've said, Owen, is that, I mean, you can pretty much count them on maybe one hand and a couple fingers. Not a lot of players, but we do have some decent players. And I think the younger players will get better over time. But this is something important that I wanted to bring up from Yvonne Teddington. Thank you for your comment. AFC's form has been, since Christmas, has been 5th in the league. I don't want to be rude, but this is what really irritates me about this fan base, is that we tend to take these little snippets of a couple games here that show us something, our form since Christmas. I mean, how many times have you heard that after Christmas, we were the first place team, or after Christmas, we were a Champions League team? We're in 10th. You can't just act like the beginning of the season didn't happen. It did. And it happened under Arteta. And all of those games go into the same little, whatever we're going to use to, determine whether Arteta is the right guy or whether this team, the players are good enough and all that kind of stuff, our form. All of that has to be taken into consideration. It cannot just be when it suits us. We lost 1-0 yesterday. We weren't in that game. We weren't. I don't care what the result said. We were not in it. We have yet to beat a team that's in form or above us this entire season. We beat Manchester United. Guess what? They were in a poor run of form. And right after that, they went on a 31 game, streak, or like a long streak where they didn't lose a game. So even though we've been 5th since Christmas, that's only a part of a season. And we only perform 20 minutes here, 45 minutes here. That's a constant theme under Arteta. 20 minutes here, 45 minutes here, 2 games here, 2 games there. Until we are 5th place in the league the entire season, we're not the 5th place team. And I'm sorry, that irritates me. Like, it really, really does, because I think we're looking for things to make us feel better. We are a mid-table side that has a hard time beating teams that are above us. We have a lot of individual errors in this team, and we are a long, long way from 5th place. Oh, I have a positive question here just to make us feel a little bit better. Ian, are you jealous of James's hair?
He always calls me that. I don't know who started. I am. I'm shedding at the minute. We had our first child just over a year ago, and the hair's taken a fast trip south. So I'm clinging on to every bit of it. So James, if you ever get a cut, just throw it in an envelope and send it over this way, buddy.
I will do, and I'll take your advice as to not have children because you lose your hair. I'll try not to have any.
Oh my gosh! So let's do one more question and then roll on out of here. I know people want to talk about Martinelli, and I think I want to talk about him too, because he's becoming a big, topic of discussion because he's not getting playing time. So Gooner 70, thank you so much for your question. He says, I see a massive talent in Martinelli leaving if not given more game time. Do you agree or disagree? And I know you kind of touched on this, Owen, and I've touched on this many, many times. These players are not just going to stay just for the sake of it. They need to get game time. And I kind of want to unpack this a little bit more than just, do we agree that he'll leave? But, what do you think Arteta is thinking in terms of Martinelli? He's not getting a lot of playing time. There's people thinking that maybe he doesn't rate him. Maybe he's protecting him. James, in your opinion, what's going on with Martinelli? And are you happy with his treatment? Do you think it's fine at his age? What do you think?
See, for me, it's not all of one and all of the other. I believe that he's managing his minutes to a certain extent, coming off the injury that he had. But also, I think the player's very smart, and he's looking at it, probably going, well, there's people ahead of me getting these games that clearly aren't gonna do what I can do, and I don't understand why they're getting in there in front of me. However, I believe that his opportunities are going to go up because a lot of the players that are currently in front of him may not be there next season. So if that's the case, Aubameyang's probably going to shift more centrally, and then that left-hand side is free, where I think he's better anyway. I don't see him as a centre forward. I see him as more of a wide player. But the other thing as well is, and I go back to what I said earlier, is Arteta operates on caution, and Martinelli's a maverick. That's a guy that's risk or reward, and more time, it's risk. And I don't think it's that he doesn't rate him. It's just that currently he probably doesn't trust him. He, for whatever reason, trusts Willian more than he trusts Martinelli, because Willian doesn't, sprint and dribble with the ball and potentially could lose the ball or do the kind of play that Martinelli has. And, that's the problem. That's the issue. But I don't think he's going to be sold anytime soon. I think he'll sit it out because he knows what's in front of him potentially leaving. I mean, there's still rumours about Aubameyang that if we don't qualify for any Europe at all, has the clause that can be activated for 35 mil from somebody. So
I hope that that's the case. I'm saying that right now. I hope that that's the case. Mm-hmm. Get out of jail free card on that one.
Yeah.
He could leave as well, and I'm like, where'd you go then? Because you got him going, you got Lacazette, I think's leaving, and you got Eddie that's leaving as well, and Balogun. So what, you're going to buy 4 strikers in the summer? I don't see that happening.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a mess. It's a big mess.
It really is. I hope we streamline the striker position a little bit over the summer, because it's pretty convoluted at this point. It doesn't really make sense from a squad building perspective. But Owen, do you have anything else to add on the Martinelli situation? I know you said that you think that he'll leave eventually, but is there a chance that we could keep him a little bit longer if we start to do better or he gets more playing time?
I do, and I think the solution lies within something that James mentioned earlier, and it's that Arteta needs to take the shackles off in terms of how tactically disciplined he requires his players to be, and I think that's why we aren't seeing much of Gabriel Martinelli. Apparently, James McNicholas from Gooner blog said that when we were playing against Man United, that you could hear Arteta constantly screaming for him to get back into position, and whether he's just being too much of a stickler and he doesn't think that Gabriel Martinelli possesses the sort of football IQ that he hasn't maybe developed enough or hasn't played at a high enough standard or been coached at a high enough standard to carry out what he requires from his players. But for me, I see that as an absolute mistake. For me, look, it's okay if you say that when you have somebody like a Sadio Mane or a Mohamed Salah or a Raheem Sterling or an Mbappe playing in front of you. But when you have Nicola Pepe, who looks like Bambi on ice at times doing defensive work, and when you have Willian, who just consistently lets runners run past, I don't care if you're in the right position. If you're letting people run past you, you could stand there all day and it doesn't make a difference. So for me, it's a situation that has to be really delicately handled, because yes, you need to sort of ease him into this sort of intensity and this amount of games. But people often use the example of Phil Foden at Man City, but Phil Foden is a Man City boy through and through, so he would have much more patience, whereas we all know that these South American kids tend to really be, either big Barcelona fans or big Real Madrid fans, and I can guarantee you that if he displays what he displayed in his first season at the club, one of those big clubs are going to come knocking, and there's not going to be too much that Arsenal can do about it.
Well said. And I see that, I think it was Yo-Yo in the comments was saying there's a lot of hypotheticals in this conversation. And I think I kind of explained this earlier, is that when we play games, there's not a lot to unpack from them, because sometimes we're out of it before there's not much in our performances. So a lot of the conversations that we do have on these post-match, shows are hypotheticals, because that's all we really can do. We just have a more macro conversation about what can or maybe won't happen in regards to Arsenal. But I still think that we're able to have a good in-depth conversation that's interesting. And I hope that that's what you guys got from this. So
I always say it the rude way. Don't worry, I'll say it the rude way. Do you want us to talk to you about something that you watched yourself? You seen it. It's fine. It was crap.
Exactly. So yeah. And that's what I was saying before the game. I was like, just please do something so we can analyze it. And what happened? They did absolutely nothing to analyze. There was nothing in that game. So yeah, but that's going to be it for today's show. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I enjoyed recording it, and we had great guests on today. Again, we had Eoin, James, and Tom a little bit earlier. Eoin, if you could just let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me there just by my name at Eoin Young, AFC, dodgy spelling. And we're actually on, I think it's at 10 o'clock tonight, is it, Jess, over on the Gooner's Pod?
Yes.
At 10 o'clock tonight. So if you want to listen to us talk about the same game more, probably in less depth and more crude jokes by Mike Feinberg, pop on over there at 10 o'clock this evening.
For sure. And I had to get James on, not just because he had awesome hair, but he has really, really good takes. So James, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, it's at LLCoolJames91 on Twitter, and then it's Purely Arsenal is the podcast I'm on, so Purely Arsenal FP. If you want to give us a follow, we did one this morning. I got up at 6:30 to do that, so nice. That's up now if you want to watch that. And then James Johnston Football's my own channel, so if you want to listen to me by myself and with my friend Tom, that's where you'll find that. So yeah, appreciate being asked to be on.
Of course, and you guys are always welcome back. All of their information is in the description box, so you can find their podcast, their Twitter handles, and all of that there. Make sure you follow them, and make sure before you leave that you like this video and you subscribe to the channel, and get in the comment section and let me know what you think. I'm always up for constructive criticism. Be nice. But yeah, that's it for the show. We'll see you guys. I think, I'm going to do a show on Wednesday as well with the guys from the Asylum. So look out for that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone. I guess it would help if I had the outro on there, right?